I'll introduce myself a little bit. I'll introduce Pato, and then we'll talk about innovation. But some of you may wonder, why am I here representing a semi-government private sector organization talking about innovation? And I suspect the organizer did a bit of research before they actually invited me, and realized that I wear two hats. I'm the CEO of the Pacific Asia Travel Association, and also the founder of Map2Venture, which is an investment fund in disruptive technologies in innovation. So I suppose that actually, because of that research, that's why actually I'm here today. But I think what I'd like to talk about is let's look very briefly at the past, the present, but more importantly the future of innovation, and why actually the pace of change is increased so much over the recent years. And when we stop and think about everything that actually changed over the recent years, we realize that the pace is increasing every day. So we're going to have to do this a little bit offline, flipping pages. The reason is actually probably a bit too advanced for most people on technology. I use a software which is very proprietary and unique, and unfortunately it cannot adapt to their system. So I have to connect it from the back and just flip the pages on my behalf. The last time I did this speech, I was actually wearing a virtual reality headset and glasses and had a gesture control device on me. I thought today might be a bit challenging to do that considering the setup. But let me explain a little bit about the Pacific Travel Association for those of you who actually don't know who we are. We're a non-profit organization. We were born in 1951. This year we celebrate our 65th anniversary. So we've been around for a very long time, and I've seen many, many changes in the industry. I am not celebrating my 65th, by the way. The organization is. And we're essentially a bridge between the public and the private sector. We have 92 government institutions who are members of PATA. We have over 800 private sector organizations on the B2B side, from tour operators, travel agencies, hoteliers, airlines, airports, OTAs, GDSs, and many other companies that deals with the tourism industry directly or indirectly. And we're actually global. Even though we're called Pacific Asia, our members are actually in 77 countries around the world. Our region actually starts here in Istanbul. That's the first point of entry into what we call the PATA region. As most of you may know in history, this actually used to be called Asia Minor. This is actually where we start. We finish in South America. So our territory is actually very wide. We have 41 chapters around the world, mini organizations in respective countries that represent us locally with the local markets. We have over 5,600 members within this organization in the chapters. We have students chapters around the world. We have 15 of them. We work with 62 universities and have over 700 students around the world who are members of our organizations. We reach through our social media over 18,000 people, and we organize 24 events a year and reach out to over 9,000 delegates at our respective events that we organize around the world. 19 of these 24 events are actually in China. China is an increasingly important market for everyone, and we pay attention to it, and that's why we actually organize activities. We have offices also in China. We were the first non-profit organization to open an office in China several years ago. So let's talk a little bit about what is innovation. It's a transformation, it's an idea, it's a breakthrough, it's an invention. But most importantly, I think in these days, it's a disruption. And I'll explain about disruptions a little bit further on. But what was the biggest innovation in travel in the past 65 years? Anyone has an idea?
Internet.
Yes, but that's not the most important one. Anyone else? You're almost correct. The jet engine. Yeah, if you go back in history, the jet engine transformed the way we travel, the speed at which we travel, and then flights, commercial flights, started to expand at a very fast rate into vast networks over decades and decades. That is the most innovative change we had in the last 65 years in this particular industry. Of course, there was the internet and everything else we'll talk about in a second, but that was the most disruptive one we had for a very long time until recently. And I don't know if there's anyone from a manufacturing aircraft here in the room, but personally I believe it is time that we actually also disrupt that industry. We need to travel faster, and there was some schematics shown in the newspaper a few days ago of Bombardier creating on paper the possibility of traveling from London to New York in 11 minutes and from London to Sydney in 32 minutes. Can you imagine the change it would have in our industry if that happened? Of course, we're probably several decades away from that. But that would be truly innovations and disruptions in this industry if that were to happen. Next. So if we go back a little bit previously also, internet was mentioned. First computer reservation system in the 60s. 1971, the first email. 73, the first NL phone, which was the size of a briefcase. 1985, the first domain name called symbolics.com. But if we fast track into more recent years, 2004, Facebook. 2007, Airbnb. 2009, Uber. Now look at the speed of that. In the space of just a few years, the size of these businesses, we're talking about valuations in the 50 million, billions and plus for companies that are actually nearly just barely 3 to 4 years old. And there's many other examples like that in other parts of the world. So the speed of change is increasing at a very phenomenal rate. We're seeing new technologies, new devices appearing every single day. So let's talk about some of these ideas. The sharing economy. Someone from Tiller University in Malaysia did a speech recently, which I happened to be attending, and actually shared a very interesting story that of Holiday Inn. The founder of Holiday Inn, when actually it was founded, who actually looked at the hospitality industry in the US and saw that there were actually no consistency in product and service offered throughout the US market. You went from one hotel to another within the same brand, and the service level would be inconsistent, very dispersed. So he had an idea. His idea was to actually that you would travel to a Holiday Inn property anywhere in the US and eventually worldwide, and the room would be exactly the same. It looks the same shape, the toilet would be the same place, the desk would be the same place, everything would look exactly the same, and it didn't matter where you were in the world. And they transformed the hospitality industry. Many other large hotel chains started to do exactly the same for a long time. And then Airbnb came. Why? Because people like us, businessmen and women who travels all the time, we wake up in the morning and we forget where we are. Because the room looks exactly the same as yesterday. But yesterday it was on a different continent. And I don't know if it happens to you, but it happens very often to me. I go to the breakfast and they ask me for my room number, and I give them the room I had yesterday in a different city. Because they all look the same. And people now want to have experiences. They want to feel something different. They want to feel a sense of place. When they travel, they want to know I'm in Istanbul. When they're actually in Spain, they want to feel I'm in Spain. When they're in Thailand, they want to feel like they're in Thailand. And with Airbnb, quite often you can actually have that. You can choose properties that will actually have a look and feel and give you that sense of place. And that's why it became so popular and actually being increased in popularity. Sharing economy is going way beyond that. Of course, you've got Uber. You can share your yacht, your boats. You can share your mobile home. You can share your holiday place. You can share lots of different things also on the sharing economy. It's a segment which has continued to increase, and there's many new opportunities within that sector for probably at least another decade. Big data, sentiment analysis. Big data is actually really important, but it's actually what is more important is when you're able to make it small. And look at actually what does it mean for me? How can you actually drive your marketing campaigns? How can you be more efficient in delivering your product moving forward if you understand the patterns or the travel habits of your bookers or the people traveling with you or staying in your property? Sentiment analysis gives you that feeling of you understand before that people make that decision as to what they would like to see and how they would like to travel. On that point, I'd like to make just a small comment about something, a piece of research that Pata did last year, and we're actually doing a follow-up this year about it. We did a survey of 3,000 young Asian travelers in Asia from the age of 16 to 29. And we've asked them about why they travel, how they travel, which booking platform they use, all the typical questions you would expect. But one thing that came up from that research that was very fascinating for us is that nearly all of the individuals we interviewed mentioned that when they travel, they don't want to be spectators, they want to be actors. They want to experience travel, they want to be part of it, they want to learn to fish with a local fisherman, they want to learn to cook pad thai in a Thai family, they want to be engaged with the local communities and be part of it. And we're doing a follow-up of that, and the next research will come out in about 2 weeks' time, where we're actually looking deeper into that specific segment and understanding why actually people are paying more attention to experiences now, and why you as a business should also pay attention to that market moving forward. So, it relates back to the sentiment analysis. If you're able to understand what your customers are expecting, what their expectations are, but also how they're actually changing, because of the fast change in technology, because of the fast change of social media, and etc., people's expectations are actually changing nearly by the day. What was in yesterday is out tomorrow, and it keeps changing all the time. So very important for us to actually understand our customer segment. Wearable technologies and Internet of Things, IoT, I believe I've seen various numbers publicized about this, but the latest I've seen is expected by 2020 there will be 20 billion connected devices around the world. If you think about it today, you've got a mobile phone, some of you may have two. If you've got a piece of wearable technologies, like I have on my wrist here, we have so many other connected devices on our daily life at home, on us, and things we actually carry with us, and these are multiplying every single day. If you think about in the travel industry, if you think of airports, if you think of hotels, more and more of these beacons and connected devices and wearables are being connected together to first learn more about the practices and the habits of the travelers, the guests in the hotels, but also to personalize, to give you a personalized service which is relevant to you as an individual, so that when you check into your hotel room, the room recognizes who you are and can offer customized the service for you. The lighting would be as you like it, the music would be as you like it, and etc. These devices are actually coming fast and furious and being developed every single day. Crowdfunding, crowdsourcing, and crowd manufacturing. When I was a teenager, like most teenagers, I had lots of ideas. Things I dreamed that I could do, that I wanted to do, but didn't have the money. I didn't have the means to be able to actually develop these ideas. I didn't know how, I didn't have the funds, I didn't have the necessary resources to go and develop it. And I wish I would be a teenager today, because now we got access to all of this. And all of you individually can be an entrepreneur and actually start your business today in a relatively easy fashion. You can get funds from crowdfunding, you can find angel investors and VCs and people who will be willing to spend money with you. You can go to services like Kickstarter or Indiegogo or other similar and actually create a concept, a product, with no money at all, and just see if people bite. If people see it are actually interested, and then they'll buy it, then you can go and get the means and the funds to actually go and develop it. Think of Pebble, the watch, which in a matter of 24 hours got several millions of investment because people thought it was a brilliant idea and just wanted a piece of it every single day. You can crowdsource, you can also get it manufactured in the same fashion. 3D printing. 3D printing is coming fast also. Many people have it at home. There's an interesting inside story about 3D printing. Somebody said, well, what's the thing? Why should I actually get a 3D printer? And why should I invest in 3D printing as a business? And actually, I'll give you a little trick, a little tip. If you want to invest, don't invest in 3D printing hardware. Invest actually in the ink, because that's the material that actually is producing it, because that's the thing that actually moving forward is going to be used enormously. The price of the 3D printers is decreasing every single day. It's now actually extremely affordable for anyone to own one, but the price of the material is actually going up. I've seen some articles recently that even hotels now are having 3D printers, so that a designer traveling to overseas for a meeting could be actually sent the model into their computers, plug it into the 3D printer at the hotel, get the replica and the model printed, go to their meeting and show it to the customer. So there's a lot of ways that actually even the travel industry could be using 3D printing in the future. On-demand and streaming, Netflix, Hulu, HBO, and many other services are actually getting online, and people are actually accessing it. When I was at university, we had a professor who was a futurist. He was looking at the future. Many of these things are actually here. He predicted this eventually. And it was hard for us as young men and women to imagine that one day I wouldn't be buying a CD or vinyl at the time, or that we'd actually be renting a service online to listen to music or watch movies and etc. But today it's actually common practice for most of us. I only switched to online streaming and video streaming about just in recent years, and it was a hard thing for me to make a decision that I won't be owning that music anymore, physically owning it, but I'll be renting it. But the benefit is I got access to 20 million songs, and if one day I feel like listening to classic and the next day jazz, I can switch from one to another and still have millions and millions and millions of choices. Cloud computing, it's been around for a while, but also it keeps increasing and it's getting faster and faster. Next. Thank you. So what's next? Well, I think what's next is the era of personalization driven by artificial intelligence. It's actually already here. We use artificial intelligence on a daily basis. We're not conscious of it. Some of you might use Siri or another digital assistant. That is artificial intelligence. It's communicating to computer, making decisions, making suggestions for you on your behalf. That's increasing all the time. But again, think of it in the applications in the travel industry to be able to personalize. In my opinion, the next big thing in travel is the person who can actually develop an engine that will offer you something which is unique to you. And we all have different tastes and different expectations when we travel. And if a computer or an engine can actually customize something which is unique to myself, then actually it saves me a lot of time. And there's ways, quite easy ways now for computers to learn practices. Over time it gets refined and better every day because you keep using it and it remembers something you've done the previous day. That will make a huge difference. And also our world will be virtual, augmented, and of mixed realities. For those of you attending the session with Facebook yesterday, they talked about Oculus Rift and virtual reality, which is coming out actually next month. There's already devices out there that you can purchase, which give you a taste of it, but not the fully immersive experience you would actually get with Oculus or the other providers, HTC and etc. and Valve. Some people say, well, is that going to replace travel? No, I don't think it'll replace travel. It's actually a way to actually entice people to travel, to make them discover, give them a taste of what they would be experiencing when they get to their destinations. And I don't know if any of you have ever tried or actually ever weared an Oculus Rift before. I had the pleasure of actually wearing one before. And it's truly immersive. You really feel like you're in a completely different place. And if you wear it for an extensive period of time, you completely forget actually where you are. I do advise some caution. If you do try one, make sure you're sitting down. I made a mistake of standing up and nearly fell off. Because you're actually following the path of what's actually on the screen, not realizing you're actually not in that world, but you're here in every room. There might be a chair in front of you. So something to be careful. Next. I'm going to show you a short video of actually what virtual and mixed realities look like. And if you'd just like to click on the video. Yeah. Thank you. Not playing? Let me just try one second. I guess we'll skip the video, but I'll tell you. Unfortunately, it actually doesn't work, so apologies for that. But let me explain a little bit briefly what it is. When you wear the augmented reality glasses, you see actually a virtual world superposed into the real world. And in this particular example, you're going down the ski slopes and you're seeing information about the temperature, about the ski slope you're going towards to. If it's an easy ride or a more difficult one, and etc., your altitude and all sorts of other information. I'm a skier, and I was skiing recently last month in France, wearing actually one of these devices. I have to say that was a center of attention of many people on the slope and nearly caused a lot of accidents. Because actually people would kind of stare at me for wearing this computer in my face. But actually it's very interesting, and I have to admit I was a little bit worried at the beginning when I was wearing the headset that I'd be a distraction for me and maybe cause an accident for myself. But actually you get used to it very quickly, because the information is just standing on the right corner of your eye, and it's actually very beneficial. I use it for running. I'm a runner also, and it's very helpful in that sense. But that's just what we call the mixed realities or augmented reality. It's superposed information on the screen. So you can travel around the city of Istanbul and look at the Blue Mosque or the palace, and information about historical information would actually come up on the screen and tell you all about it without you searching on your phone, etc. The other benefit, instead of looking down like this all the time, you're looking up and you're looking at people in front of you. So there's a lot of benefits to that. As I said, it's a bit unfortunate you can't see the video because it gives you actually a day-to-day example of how actually this technology will actually transform the way we do business. I have in my office what I call a gesture control device, and sometimes we have a lot of young people coming to the office or interns, and they look at my office and to a glass door and they think this guy's a bit crazy. He's just moving his hands in the air all the time. And actually I don't use a keyboard or a mouse. I use a gesture control device to transform my muscle electricity into Bluetooth signal, controlling what's on the screen by flipping pages, zooming in and out, stopping or moving devices. There are actually 5 gestures which are quite easy to remember to control the information. But if you think of that in the next couple of years, screens and keyboards and mouse will be things of the past. You'll be wearing the technology in front of you and it will transform the way you work. So I encourage you to think about the applications in travel moving forward, because this technology is coming, and it's coming at a much faster rate than we think. So I suspect that within the next 5 to 10 years, this will be something very common that we're all going to have at our disposal every day. Next screen, please. Thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, that actually concludes my presentation, and I guess the question that I actually pose is the pace of change in travel tech too fast, or is it still in need for major disruption? My answer, as you probably expect, is actually still in need of a major disruption. There is still many products and services that are currently offered in travel that can be disrupted and will be disrupted moving forward. And so pay attention to that, because you all could be affected by it, or you could be the one leading it. Thank you very much.